Hello, everybody. Awesome. There we go. Always takes a second for the Zoom list to update. I'm always afraid that nobody's coming. But hi, everybody. Glad to have you with us for another week here on the Virtuous Insider. And we really appreciate all of you who have been joining us for these sessions. I know this is still something relatively new that we wanted to try out to try to stay a little bit more connected to everybody and give you guys some more opportunity to meet other members of the team and kind of get more connected to Virtuous. So we really appreciate everybody who's joining us, who's participated in all the sessions. Hopefully these have been beneficial for you. At least I hope they are. If there are certain things that you like or that you want to see or you have some thoughts, you can always let us know. You can send an email to the training team, training@virtuous.org. Let us know what you think. That would be amazing. But thank you for joining us. Today, we are doing a session we're calling our Product Pulse, right? We want to check in on the product. Now, before we get started, the same ground rules apply as always, right? We are going to record the session, so this will be available later if you want to go back and play it back when you're having trouble sleeping at night. Everybody is muted. That way we can try to get some good audio for that recording, and that's how webinars work all the time. But if you do have questions, we would love questions. You can go ahead and send those in. Try to use that Q&A box. You'll see that there. That way we can keep track of all of them. And I'll say, I know sometimes folks like to use the chat to send in some of those questions and chat with us. And those are great. But that chat can be hard to keep track of, especially if you ask a question and we want to go back to that question later. If you put it in the Q&A box, we can make sure, Jason and I, that we don't miss that question. We can go back and we can try to address it, even if it comes in, a little bit early. Now, I just mentioned Jason, so I gave it away, but my co-host for today is Jason VanLue. He's the Director of Product here at Virtuous. How you doing, Jason?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Excellent. Fantastic is good.
It is very good.
It's great.
It's a great Thursday.
Yeah. Here we go. I don't have the neat background that you do, but I'm spiffy.
I don't even remember where that background was, so I'll tell you something.
So for today, what we want to go through, we do want to talk about some of the new release features. We just had a release this week with some new feature updates. We'll take a quick look at those. What's in the product now that you can get your hands dirty with and play around with. And then Jason's going to take a look into the future, some things that are not in the product today, but what we're planning to bring to you so you can get a sneak peek behind the curtain. And then we want to make sure there's plenty of time for your questions. If you've got questions for me, you've got questions for Jason about things going on with the product, we would love to hear from you. This is a great opportunity to do that. So please go ahead, send those in, and we'll try to address as many of them as we can. I know we try to keep this session to 30 minutes. We know you're joining us every week. We want to make sure that we're not taking up your entire day. But yeah, if you've got questions, go ahead and send them in. So in terms of looking at some of these new features, let's go ahead and switch over to Virtuous proper. We'll go ahead and take a quick look here. And to start with, I'm here on the contacts page. Right? So one of the first things is the idea of dynamic list sorting, right? And being able to edit right from a list view. So I'm here on the contacts page. You'll notice these features for contacts, for individuals. You'll notice some of them on the gifts page and in other places where there's sort of a table view of data. We've always had the ability to click to sort on some of the table headers, the column headers, but it wasn't always obvious or clear which you could sort and which you couldn't. So we've tried to make that a little bit clearer here with this hover. And you can see we've got these little carets here to indicate whether you're going in ascending or descending order by ID or by contact name, right? So you'll see that clear sorting here. You'll see it on the gifts page. Again, you'll see it all over. But one of the big changes is for contacts and individuals. It's the ability to edit right away, because before, if you saw something on a record that needed to be changed, you saw that Claire's email address was incorrect or something like that, right? You would have had to click on the contact record, go to the record, then select Claire as an individual, go to edit her contact methods, and then you could make the change. It was just a lot of clicks. It was a lot of steps, and you might be doing multiple things without wanting to leave this screen. So now you can see as I go in here to this email address, I got the edit icon that pops up there, and I can come in and I can edit that contact method right from here. If I needed to make a change, if I realized that this should be a little bit different, I can go ahead and do that. I can save that contact method so that we've got Claire's email correct. And then for Sherry and Travis here, maybe I do have Sherry's email address, but it's not here on the record. I can click on the little add button here and I can add an email address either for Sherry or for Travis, either or. We'll go ahead and add that for Sherry. I can pick the email here, Sherry at the Russos. Why not? And we'll go ahead and save that contact method. So that applies for email, for phone numbers, and even for addresses. So if there's something about the address that needs to change, I can do that. And then over here on the right, the little 3 dots, that'll slide out this new little view here that lets you click to view. That'll take you to the contact record itself. Go right into the edit mode for that record. There's something you need to change. And now you've also got quick access to archive a record right from here. I don't have to go to the record and go through a few layers. I can quickly archive them. And for individuals, right, because individuals don't get archived, instead, I've got the ability to delete an individual right from here. So we just wanted to surface some of those things, make it easier to get around and make it faster to do what you needed to do. Now, one of the other things that we released to make things easier, a little bit faster, is related to SMS and really the ability to sign up for sending SMS messages. Up until now, if it was something you were interested in, you wanted to do that, you had to reach out to our team, right? Have some back and forth, set up a call. Again, a lot of time that you needed to go through that. But now, if I go into the marketing side here as an admin, I'm in a different environment. Even if I don't have SMS, right, I'll see the SMS icon over here in the menu. And then when I click on that, that'll show me that I can go ahead and sign up for SMS messaging. I can click, I can go ahead and view the pricing plans. I can select one for my organization and put in the credit card, set up the billing, and then get going right from here. And then as I'm using SMS, if I want to upgrade my plan, I can even come in and upgrade my plan right from here. And as part of this, we're also going to give you, and you've probably seen this if you looked at our release notes, an easy way to keep track of how many messages you've sent. So that's built into the SMS screen as well. That way, since you are picking a plan with a certain number of SMS messages that you can send, you can keep track of your usage, right? Make sure you're not going over each month. Okay. Now, the other thing that we introduced, and let me switch here to a slightly different view, different organization. But this one's kind of neat. These are some new customizations for giving forms, right? Or donation forms. So if I go in here to the form builder, now I have to create a new giving form to see some of the new giving form options. If you go to edit an existing form, you won't see some of these features there. So you will have to edit or create, a new giving form. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll create a new giving form. And we'll just call this another webinar form thingy. There we go. I could set all my defaults if I wanted to, right? As usual. And then I can come into the form editor here. It's got my basic form pre-built for me, and then I can go customize it. I can drop in some other fields and things like that. But some of the cool new things are you can include, for example, on the submit button down here, right? There wasn't always a lot of customization available, but now I have this little toggle, little slider here to say I want to show the amount in the button label, right? And so I could change the text here. So I could say this, make my blah, blah, blah gift. Done. Great. For the make recurring, you've got the same option here, right? I could show the amount in the label, right? So I could say make my blah, blah, blah gift recurring or monthly, right? However you want to choose to do that. Great. And then when I preview this, right, I'll see the amount showing up here. So as I select a donation amount, make my $100 gift, make my $100 gift recurring. So I can put both of those in there. Now, the other changes are for the gift arrays. Okay, and so you won't see these options when you're editing a form. It's when you edit or create the array itself. So if I go in here to create a new gift array, I have a few things here. Number one, I could always show the other amount text box, which usually only shows if I click other. I could say, no, I want that all the time. And the other thing is I can choose to have a default option pre-selected on the form. So when someone goes to that giving page, it's kind of encouraging them to go with option 3. Now, we show this as option 3, not $75, because remember, if you're using the responsive listener on your website, right, you can have a custom array showing to certain donors who visit that page based on their giving history with you. So not everyone will see $75, but you could simply say, hey, whatever value is there in that option 3, that's the one I want to kind of pre-select. That's the one I want to kind of suggest to my donor. So some pretty cool stuff that you can do here with forms, right? Some pretty cool stuff that you can do here, especially I love the ability to do some of the quick edits and quick navigation here. I think that's going to be a big bonus for folks who are spending a lot of time in Virtuous, right? Having to click back and forth. Okay, this is excellent. I already see some questions coming into the Q&A, so that's great. I want to make sure we have time to get to those. If you have other questions about some of the new features, send those in. But I do want to turn things over to Jason. I want to make sure that we have some time, number one, to take a look at some of the cool stuff that is coming to Virtuous.
Absolutely, and some of those new features, I'm really excited about those too. There are a lot of enhancements just to the user experience as a whole from an efficiency side of things, and really I think lay the foundation for more improvements, particularly around what we can continue to do with kind of the quick editing features, and then also forms, which is a great segue into what we're going to talk about briefly next around membership forms. So for those of you who have been around software or the web before, what you're looking at is sort of a hybrid wireframe design comp, which means this is not in the wild and it is not finished by any means. In fact, I already noticed one little mistake I made. I did not update the sub navigation up there in the top left for this particular comp. So we are not in the gift section. We're actually in the form section. That's my bad there. But what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of insight into what we're working on currently around membership forms. So if you remember, I believe it was 2 releases ago, Scott, fairly recently, where we released some new membership features, which is really cool. You can create memberships inside of Virtuous, but one of the things that you can't do right now is create an actual membership form. And so what we're working on currently is the ability to do that. So you'll see here we have this forms table, and you'll note in the type column we've redesigned that a little bit to show that there are now membership forms. And so, Scott, if you go to the next slide on this particular screen, we're going to add an action up into the actions panel where you can create a separate membership form. So you can create a giving form, you can create a lead form, event, volunteer, just like you were able to do before. Now you're going to be able to create an actual membership form, which is really great, and that'll show up in your forms table. And then once you go in to actually create those or edit those, it's going to follow the same flow that you're used to in creating any of your forms. So you will have already created membership details inside of the membership section in Virtuous. Then you can come in here, you can create a new membership form, give it a name. You could also give it some default items. We're still working around some of those default specs that might be included for a particular form. But then once you've done this, you're going to go into the main edit screen, which should also look familiar. And this is where it gets a little interesting, kind of cool. So what you're going to be able to do here is basically customize your membership form to work with your organization and how you do it. So in this case, we're looking at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm, which is a fancy way of saying kind of a small town zoo. It's right up the road from where I live in St. Augustine, Florida. You can actually see a lot of the birds and whatnot flying around. We haven't gotten any creepy crawlies yet, which is good. Hoping that doesn't happen ever. But you can see on the right now, once you've clicked on the membership type box at the top center, now you're going to be able to essentially customize how those membership types reflect in your form. So we can add different ones. So in this case, we're showing 2. If we had more, we could show multiple ones. We could just have an individual one if you're only rolling one type of membership. And you can do the same things with your forms. You can add advanced CSS. You can add all the relevant info around contact information, credit card information, pretty much anything and everything that you can do with Virtuous Forms right now. But one of the other cool things you'll see there in the middle, whereas view options, what we're thinking about doing is giving you the ability to render the form differently depending on your particular use case. So you might want to have just a really simplistic form that's like a standard form on a page. And if you only have one membership type, or maybe you have multiple, but you want it to be fairly vanilla, you can just view it as a drop down, pretty straightforward. I want to select this membership type, fill out my information. But there also might be scenarios where you want to show those as cards. And so if you think about a separate independent membership page, multiple cards on a page, we also give you the ability to do that. And so if you were to select that option, you can select view as cards, and then we're going to give you a little bit more functionality in this particular form customization. So Scott, on the next screen, I believe. Yep. So here, what we can do is all of the information that's contained in each of the membership types would show up here. Potentially giving you the ability to like upload images or further customize those cards, just to give you a little bit more functionality in how you're displaying the membership types to the end user. And then in the next two screens, just a very, very basic rendering of kind of what I'm talking about between those card views and standard drop-down form views. So, again, this is a very basic wireframe rendering of how that might show up. So at a very high level, we want to give you the ability to create membership forms, since we've given you the ability to create memberships inside of Virtuous, and also lay the foundation for further customization and enhancements of the rendering of those forms in your website or however you're marketing those membership types for your organization. So that's one of the many things we're working on. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a great value add to the membership tools inside of Virtuous.
That's awesome. And I think one of the neat things here too is the ability to start storing some of those images, right? Even potentially just on the membership itself. So I could use that in a few different places, maybe not just on the form, but certainly, the memberships right now are kind of neat. So Jason, you were correct. It was actually, 2 releases ago, we released the membership functionality itself. You can add a membership where you can create them. You can add them to a contact, or you can add them to an individual. And in the most recent release, we actually had an enhancement where now you can select a membership when you're entering a gift. So you can specify that it's a payment towards a particular membership. And this is kind of the next evolution of that, is being able to then assign those from a form and in a gift entry scenario. And some of the behind the scenes kind of look, right? And I think we've talked about this actually in some of these training webinars in the past too, is sometimes there's groundwork we need to lay, kind of these incremental things before we can get to the point where, this kind of brings together a lot of that functionality. And allows you to put that into your website so folks can sign up for memberships on their own. But I think it'll be really powerful.
That's exactly right. Iterative development is the name of the game with software.
Right. I have to be able to do A if I want to do B and C.
Exactly.
That's the key. Well, hey, I know that we've got some questions coming in. We've got about 11 minutes because, man, these things go fast. So I want to make sure that we've got some time to get to those. So I'll start taking a look here at what we've got, Jason. And I don't know, some of these might be questions for you. Some of these might be questions for me. I have a feeling that some folks are really excited to chat to you. So let's see. So one of these questions actually looks like it's a bit of a product suggestion. So it's asking about a form builder that creates a downloadable PDF. Because someone has a client who uses forms to collect info, and they would really love to be able to print those out, print out the response from any form fill or something like that. So I don't know, it sounds like it could be, so the PDF is not being downloaded by the person filling out the form, but the ability to download the response data internally. Now, I'm going to add some interpretation to this question here, Jason, because it sounds like the idea might be that I want to be able to download that internally and see that data. And so it might be that being able to do something like this is something that could be done once we, again, the iterative process, kind of connect the dots between forms as they exist today and the custom collections functionality. So right now I know we support custom fields in forms, custom collections, not yet. But it sounds like that might be the bridge between those two, Jason. But any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's probably right. I would be curious from actually, is it Karen? Yep. So from Karen, sort of the use case there, and how by printing off some of those PDF responses, what are you doing with it after the fact? Is it that you're sort of circulating that amongst the team? Is it used for other ways? I would just be curious to know what the use case is for those PDF printouts after the fact, because that might help give us a little insight into are there other areas in the app where printing off some of that on-screen data might be helpful.
And this is a great time to say too, and I think folks who've been clients for a long time know that we are always listening. And every single release, when I'm putting together the really kind of silly release notes, in every single one, there are features that came directly from client feedback, right? Someone who asked for something. But those of you that have sent in suggestions for features, you probably know one of the things we always ask is, what's the use case? Why? How do you want to use this particular feature? Because one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that we're coming up with software that really works for everybody. So what's the pain that you're trying to alleviate or solve? And then Jason's the lucky guy who gets to spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, now I understand the pain point. What's the best way to alleviate that particular pain? Jason, you think that's kind of a fair way to put that?
100%. I am a full-time problem solver in essence. And we operate on screens, but ultimately what we build is for the other side of that screen. So it's for the person on the other side, whether that's internally or actually donor facing. And so we have a lot of things that we're doing. There's a lot of new things coming up. We're actually going to be making our roadmap public here in the near future. So that's going to be a way for folks to be able to comment and kind of contribute on where we're going. But I absolutely love and thrive on any suggestions that come. That helps us make Virtuous better, because we're hearing what those pain points are, and it's not just what we think they might be, but hearing what they actually are, and then finding solutions, hopefully that will directly impact those.
Excellent. Well, hey, I wanted to get to some of the other questions. One of them is a little bit of a functionality question here. But the question was about deleting, the quick delete of an individual. What if the individual in a household is deceased? They need to be marked that way in a household record. Just delete, remove that individual, regardless of whether they are marked deceased or not. So I can take this one real quickly because the answer is yes, right? Delete and flagging as deceased are two very different things. Mm-hmm. And from that quick edit view, right, if I switch back over here and hang out here on individuals, from this quick edit view, if I needed to mark Joe here as deceased, the key would be I'd want to come in and edit Joseph, the individual, because then I can just quickly say he's deceased. That keeps him in the record, keeps all of his information in the record, and keeps everything listed there still, but just flags the fact that he is passed away. Deleting an individual deletes that individual. So it takes them out entirely, right? Removes all the, the contact information related to them and everything else. So if they're deceased, I would just go ahead and mark them as deceased as opposed to deleting altogether. So Jason, your turn, because we had a question about volunteer functionality. Are there any plans on some different volunteer tracking or volunteer sign up forms? Now, I'm assuming that's beyond, I know right now we have some the ability to create a volunteer form and have someone basically raise their hand and say, yes, I'd like to volunteer. But I'm not sure if the idea here is some improved ability for someone to log their own hours, something like that. But any future plans in the volunteering space?
Yeah, so this comes from Stacy. Great questions. This is definitely an area that we're taking a hard look at, and I'll answer this in two parts. The long-term answer is yes, we do have plans. They're not necessarily in our what I would say short-term plans, so within the next say couple of months or so, but it is on our roadmap to really enhance the volunteer functionality. Stacy, would love to bring you and anyone else into the fold to sort of help us shape that, because I think it would be certainly helpful for me and for my team to know what would be helpful in improving that area. But the second piece of that and sort of the short term answer there is we are we're going to be completely revamping how we do events and really creating some robust functionality around events. Now I know that doesn't necessarily cover all of volunteer things, but that I think will go a fair amount or let's see, how should I say this? A decent way in achieving some of those things. So hopefully in launching that and then maybe shaping some specific functionality around volunteering in the future. But yeah, I'm excited to roll some of those things out as well.
Awesome. Well, hey, and Christopher sent in a note via chat asking about multiple memberships per contact. Would we be available to do that in the future or for individuals? And so, Christopher, I'd say number one, exactly what we just said earlier. If you have a specific scenario or use case in mind, we would love for you to send that in. And you guys know the chat box in Virtuous proper, right? You can always use that and say, I've got a suggestion for a new feature and send that in. Jason literally sifts through all of that stuff as you know, when it comes in and tries to go through every single one of those. And I think people are often, they would be shocked how much time we spend going through that feedback and really trying to put it together and you know, figure out we've only got so much time. So which are the things we want to work on, but we really do spend a lot of time going through that.
Yeah, that's,
but there's, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Scott. Just real quick. That's a great call. That's probably the best option. Go to that intercom box, send us a feature request. They do come directly to me. And then we actually sit down at a minimum, like every week. I mean, pretty much every 2 weeks, but sometimes even every week. And in this last release, we actually had probably 5 or 6 items that went out in the release that came directly from customer requests through that. So that's a great way to get ideas and requests in. And we absolutely do look at those and take those to heart.
Yeah. And I'll say for the membership piece too, so you can have multiple memberships on a record. There can only be one active membership, either for a contact, so for the household, right, or per individual. So I, could be on a record with my wife. I might have an active membership. She might be a member at a different level, so she can have a different membership, and they can both be active. We can also have all of our past membership history included there, but only one of them can be active at a given time. So if I say upgrade my membership to the next level, well, that becomes my active membership now. And where I was previously becomes an inactive membership. So that's my previous membership. And that's the thought process there, because if I want to be able to do segmentation, if I want to be able to pull information of all my members at X, Y, or Z level, I need to have one level for everybody. I can't have someone who's a member in 4 or 5 different ways necessarily. It's really difficult to do that. So I want to look at their active membership. Now, if I wanted to pull everybody who's ever been a silver member or something, well, great, I've got the history there. But that's the part of the reasoning behind that, right? So I can have multiple memberships, multiple individuals with different memberships on the same record, but only one active for each of those individuals or for the household, right? Sometimes you might be doing household level memberships. Like my family, we're members of the zoo because I have children who are under 10, and that's required. That's what you do. But there are other places where I might be a member, right? And my wife might be a member, either or. So it all depends. Okay. So I know we're right up on time here. I'm really glad we still have a couple of other questions and we can follow up with some folks individually. I know, Lauren, you had asked a question about SMS. Can you see who didn't receive the message? The quick answer would be in the SMS page. You can see the sent SMS messages, so that you can go through and see the status of those sent messages. That's the easiest way for you to see that. So sorry, you got a quick answer there. And I know we have a couple of other questions here about accessing forms and things like that. That's all in the Virtuous marketing side of things, if you're looking for Virtuous forms. And we certainly have plenty of documentation in our support section, right? If you go to support.virtuous.org, you'll read plenty of support articles there that can go through a lot of that information too. But I do want to say real quickly, want to make sure that you guys are going to be able to join us next week. Again, we are excited to do this weekly. Next week, we're going to be going back to our client spotlight. We love when we're able to celebrate the successes of our clients, not just talk about ourselves. So please do join us for that next week. And I always like to leave everybody with some words from someone who's smarter than me. And this is Henry Timms. He's president, CEO of Lincoln Center, formerly at 92nd Street Y for a very long time in New York. And I thought this is pretty fitting. How we manage and harness technology for the good of mankind is the key issue of our time. And that's really what Jason and I and everybody here, what we've been spending time doing. That's what we do all day. That's what we're trying to do. All right. So, hey, thank you, Jason, so much for joining us. Looking forward to being able to do more of these with you.
Absolutely. I'm excited about doing this on the reg. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and love answering these questions and finding better ways to serve all of you.
Excellent. All right. Thanks everybody. And I will talk to you again next week.